Hi, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Kevin from Budibase, and I want to show you how you can use the cloud platform to get up and running with Budibase to help make your data accessible and usable by colleagues throughout your organization. Budibase aims to make it possible to turn our data into action, rather than having data languish in databases untouched by the people who are creating and using it. We want data to be right in front of people, allowing them to make informed decisions and do their jobs more efficiently and effectively. Budibase is an open source project, saving hundreds of hours for building internal tools. Whether you're a database professional or system admin, if you don't have developer resources to be able to build out an application to fill a need that you can identify, Budibase is there to help. Let's dive in. If you haven't already, you need to set yourself up with an account on the platform. You can use Google, GitHub, or email. Once we've logged into the platform, on the left-hand side, we can find this Marketplace tab. Clicking on this, we can search for applications that we can install with a single click, and Budibase is one of them. So I'll search for Budibase, I'll click on it, and I've got some options that I can set down here. I can set the port. By default, this is 80, so we can connect with HTTP. We can choose whether or not we want to use Debian or Ubuntu. We can select our region. I'm based in Belfast, so London's closest to me. And then we can select our plan that we want to build. We can decide how much computing resources we want to put behind this. We can go to extremes and spend $7 an hour to be able to get a huge computer. Or we can start right with a dedicated server of 4 gigabytes down at the bottom. We also have tabs for shared CPUs, for high memory, and for GPUs. I find either the dedicated 4 gigabytes or the shared 4 gigabytes as being more than sufficient to be able to handle our needs. We can then label what we're doing. We can give it any tags, set a root password, and then click Create Linode down here. Once the system is running, we can click the Launch LiSH console. This allows us to see what's going on inside the instance as we get our Budibase environment ready. Budibase allows us to bring data from any source that you might have. You might have a Postgres database somewhere or a MongoDB database somewhere else, and you want to pull the data in different ways. I'm going to set up a database inside of my cloud platform so that I can use data from that. So back in the cloud platform, I'm going to go to Databases, and I'm going to create a database cluster. I'll give it a name. I'll set the database engine to be Postgres. The region I'll set to be London again, and I'll give it some memory. I'll set it to be 4 gigabytes as well. I'm only going to use one node, but if you're going into production, it's a good idea to use multiple nodes to avoid downtime during upgrades and backups. We'll add the IP address for the Linode, which is running our Budibase instance later, but for now, we'll click Create Database Cluster, and you can see here it takes between 15 and 30 minutes to provision. Now that cloud platform is provisioning everything that we need, it's probably about time to go and grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee and come back when we can carry on. So the Linode that's running my Budibase instance is up and running. I'm going to copy its IP address and go to my database instance, which is also running and active. And I'm going to click on Manage Access Control, add an IP, and paste the IP address in there. Click Update Access Control, and we'll see our database is updating to allow our Budibase instance to access this database. We're going to need these connection details later, but for now, we can go to the IP address we pasted and get stuck into Budibase. When you get to that IP address, you've got this web page, which allows us to create an admin user that will be our user number 1 for our Budibase instance. We'll add the email, password, and repeat the password, and then we'll create our super admin user. Once you've done that, it's time to log in with that username and password and start building our Budibase apps. Our Budibase instance can have as many apps as we'd like, but as we log in for the first time, if we have no applications, it'll ask us to name and create our first app. We're going to create a fleet management tool, which might be used by a car hire company or a company that's managing lots of corporate cars. If I type in the name, URL is available, and it's telling me the full URL that anyone can come and view my application once it's been published. I'll click Let's Go, and it's bringing me into Budibase. Now, Budibase is split into a number of different sections. We've got the data section where we can import and manage our data. We're able to manipulate the data here. We can set up custom queries. We can do lots of different things here. We've got the design tab where we create the visual experiences for our users so that they can interact with our data in meaningful and useful ways. We have the automate section that allows us to be able to respond to events within our application and carry out other actions, long-term running jobs or call outs to other APIs, and also allows us to listen to incoming webhook requests, triggering actions within this application. We have the user section that allows us to be able to add users and manage who can see our application and at what level they have access to this particular application. Let's go to our data section. At Budibase, we want to get your data where it is now. So if you already have a SQL database or a MongoDB database or have data sitting in S3, we want to help you get that and make it actionable. I'm going to use a Postgres database. So I'll click on Postgres and it wants my connection details. So since I'm using a dedicated database built in Linode, I'm going to get those details from Linode. So I'll go to the database, I'll get the host string, I'll copy that. I'll get the database is going to be Postgres. The user is going to be lin Postgres. And the password, well, I'll show you this password. This should be kept anonymous. I'm going to delete this when I'm done, but we press the show button, we can copy it and we can paste it into here. I need to use SSL to connect to my database and I'll connect. That will then connect and fetch any tables that exist in that database. So there are 3 tables already in my database. I've got a fleet, which are all the vehicles that I have available. I've got check-ins, when a vehicle is checked back in again, its current mileage, when it was checked in, some notes. And I have got some maintenance checklists, so some maintenance that's going on inside of here. So I've got the data from my database, wherever it is, and now I can start to design the user experience. So I'll click into the design tab. I want to create a CRUD application for each of the tables I've just added. Budibase allows us to build single page applications where we can use different screens to allow our users to achieve different goals. We have this home screen where we start. It's currently empty. I'm going to click on add screen, and rather than add more blank screens, I'll click on this list view below and press continue. It asks me what I would like to make a list view of, and I'm going to click all 3 of the tables that we've talked about, the check-ins, the fleet, and the maintenance checklists, and click confirm. I then get the opportunity to set the role-based access level for those particular screens. It defaults to basic, so our users need to be logged in, but the other possibilities are public, which means anyone can access this particular screen. They don't need to be authenticated at all. Power, which is an elevated role, and admin, which is another more extremely elevated role as well. I'll leave it at basic and click done. So on the left hand side, I can see I've got a page for check-ins, a page for fleet, a page for maintenance checklists. And I can click this preview button up here to be able to see each of those in action. Here's check-ins. There's a link at the top here to click to go to fleet. And there's a link at the top here to click to go to maintenance checklists. I'd like to tidy these tables up a little bit. At the moment, there's a lot of detail on these tables. I can click create row, which allows me to create a new table. The order of these fields I might want to change. I can click on an individual row and I can see the details of this row appearing in these pop-out side panels that I can click away from or click back into. And I can update any of the details in here and they will be updated in my database. Lastly, I can paginate through the data. You can see here there are 2 pages, there are 8 items per page, so there are 10 items currently in my fleet. So with very little effort, I've got my data inside of Budibase and I've got a create, read and update functionality for each of these tables. I'd like to do a little bit of tidying up just to make this even more useful to the people who are going to use it. So go back into Budibase and I'll click on the fleet and the table. So along the right hand side, I have lots of ways I can configure this table. I've I've got lots of settings, which we'll look at some of those in a second. I've got styles for margins and size, but I can also add some custom CSS if I want to improve the styling here. And I've got some conditions. But I'm going to stick in settings. I'm going to change that title to vehicle list. The data is still going to come from fleet, but I want to configure the columns. I'll click on add all columns, which will make all the columns that are there available. And I'll think, well, I only really want to see maybe the license plate, the make, the model, maybe the year, and the status. Everything else I'm just going to get rid of. So let's get rid of make, model, year, and status. So everything else I'll just get rid of. I'll click save. I have a much nicer, cleaner table, which is giving me the key information that if I'm coming to this table, I want to know. I can do the same thing for the field. So let's preview that now. Looks a lot tidier, but I can click inside each of the fields to get the full information. So that's great. I still have access to all of that. Amazing. At the moment, the maintenance checklists here don't have access to which vehicle is actually being assessed. I need to link that data. So let's do that. I'll do that because it's a data task. I'll do that in the data tab. And I can see that each of the maintenance checklists have a fleet ID, which is referencing the vehicle. So I'll go to fleet and I'll click on define relationship. We start from the one in the one-to-many. So one vehicle can have multiple maintenance reports. So I want the ID in our fleet to be linked to the maintenance checklists using the fleet ID column in the maintenance checklist. In here, I wanted to say vehicle because that's what I wanted to say in the maintenance checklist. And maintenance checklist is fine. That's good. So here I've got maintenance checklist. Here's the dates where they happen. Brilliant. Now if I go to maintenance checklist, I can see vehicles. I've got the list of vehicles. Now the vehicles at the moment are being identified by these somewhat odd numbers. And if I look back over in my fleet table, I can see that's the average fuel costs. I don't really want to identify my vehicles by the average fuel costs, but Budibase will use the first column as the display column. Realistically, I probably want the license plate to be used to represent the column. So I'll go to license plate, I'll click the three dots and say use as display column. That's moved right to the left-hand side. My maintenance checklist is appearing here and it's ready to go. With that done, I'll dive back into the design tab and I'll go to the maintenance checklist page. So again, this is a table that has a lot going on, probably too much if someone was coming to have a look at it. So I'll change the title to be checklists and I'll configure the columns again. I'll add all columns and really, check date, the vehicle itself, who did it, and maybe the result. And we'll get rid of everything else. Now we can change these labels so that they look better. So check date and agent name. This is just what's going to be displayed rather than anything to do with our database. So I'll save that. And I've got a much nicer table here going on. I'll click on preview. Look inside my maintenance checklists. Nice, great. I can sort by date, by agent, and by result. So I'm able to see all the things that failed, when they failed, and which vehicle it was that failed. So we have the ability to create, read, and update, but often we also want to delete records as well. So let's quickly see how we can delete a record. I can see here there's this particular report, someone started it but hasn't finished it off. So I'd like to delete it. So back in Budibase, in my maintenance checklist table, I'm going to scroll down the right-hand side. Underneath this on row click section, we can configure the fields inside our table, but we can also show delete. And all I do is click that checkbox, go back to my application, click on that record, and now I've got delete. So I click delete and confirm, and it's gone. Budibase allows us to turn our data into action. Very quickly, we've created a CRUD application We've got relationships with inside of our data. We're displaying what's useful. And rather than just having a database table that is static, we're able to expose the data in different ways to our users. This page looks good on mobile and on desktop. So colleagues can use it on their phone while they're in the garage or on the shop floor, or they can use it on their desktops if they're sat in the office as well. We hope you'll give Budibase a try in the marketplace. Bring in your data from wherever you have it and create actions from the data that's there. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for more videos. I've been Kevin from Budibase. Thanks for your time.